This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
We don't talk about that.
Hey, welcome back to Shh, We Don't Talk About That. I'm Joanna. I am here with my lovely co-host, Natalie, and also with my wonderful husband, Keith.
He's
Hello.
lovely. Keith, you are lovely.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
mean,
very much. I appreciate that.
okay, so you guys can switch the verbiage however you want. It's fine. You're both wonderful and lovely. Love you both. But you are lovely.
Thank you.
I like it. I like it.
So,
So
Natalie,
we're bringing back our second holiday special.
yeah, I know. So it's a little bit of a tease into the next season. Still got to talk about all of that, but a little bit of a tease into the next season. See how we kind of play this out, and what are we here to talk about today?
I'll be there for you. Okay, no, I really did that poorly because the Friends theme song did not pop into my head at the right time. But ultimately, helping your partner get through the holidays.
Yes, yeah, and we're specifically talking about, partners who are dealing with trauma. This stuff can apply to any partner in a lot of ways, but there are going to be certain things that we're talking about partners who are going through trauma therapy, have their own distance with their families, potentially childhood trauma that's attached to that
Mm-hmm.
kind of situation. So I think that's more of our focus today. But it is specifically for the holidays. We'll get more in depth as to how partner support over the next season, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's layers upon layers of things because we're all onions, and when we have a partner, their onion does not look like our onion. So what works for us may not work for them, and vice versa.
Right. And one of the biggest things that I think that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to support your partner is understanding not necessarily what your love language is, but what their love language is. How do
Yes.
they feel loved, supported, and like you are there for them and in their corner? Because if you're buying them gifts and their love language is quality time, then they're not hearing the message that you're sending to them. They're seeing it's like, oh, they're just trying to buy me off.
Right.
Or, if it's like vice versa, yours is quality time and you're trying to spend quality time with them. And for them, it's gifts. They're like, yeah, I mean, I love it that you're always here, but you never even take the time to get me anything. You don't even think of me that, because with trauma, we tend to snowball things.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is just that thing. There's always something connected to that thing because that's how we grew up. Every action was connected to some sort of behavior that we were often accused of being, where I can remember as a kid being like, that's not what I meant at all, or that's not what's going on at all. And your voices are kind of shut down and stuff. And so you learn how to cope with that in unhealthy ways where we've talked about in the past. And if you don't have a partner that's able to speak your love language, then you can tend to create your own stories. And if we're not far enough along in therapy where we're actually asking, like, is that what you meant? You know, is this, or this is what, or able to articulate what we need, then it can sometimes kind of backfire, I think, on both sides, where partners are trying to be there for each other, but not speaking the language that their partner needs to hear. That's been my experience in other relationships. This relationship has been very different, which is kind of why I wanted to bring Keith on.
Well, you've said many times in the past, over our last season, that this has been your healthiest relationship out of all your intimate relationships. And because, Keith, you are so open and you are so willing to talk about things, and you don't like immediately fly off the handle and get pissed and start throwing shit around the house and breaking it. Like, you're like, let's just calm down. Let's talk about this. What's going on? Which is super helpful because, like, with trauma, like, your nervous system is already so activated and it's so just going crazy all the time that it doesn't understand, like, calm. And if there's calm, there must be something wrong. So if there's something wrong, I need to figure out, like, which landmine to not step in. I need to understand what's going to happen. Where, like, in your guys' relationship, that hasn't necessarily been the case. Maybe some activation, just a skosh happening on Joanna's behalf. With you being able to be like, it's fine. Let's just take a breath. Let's just talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's understand it. What do you need from me? Which is huge because a lot of people with trauma and just in general don't get that kind of relationship straight out the gate or ever in their life. So I think that's a huge testament for sure.
Yeah, it's taken years for me to figure things out, so to speak, and get to where because I would get frozen a lot and just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't want to make it worse. Like, just freeze, don't do anything. And it's taken me years to get out of that and pull myself out of that and go, okay, what does she need from me right now? How can I help her the best? And, just try to help her through whatever situation it is.
Well, we learned that going to couples therapy.
Right.
Because I thought he froze, he just didn't care. Because he didn't know how to, it's not like he came back after and was like, listen, I'm sorry, I froze. I just didn't know what to say. He didn't articulate any of that. It was just when the situation got better, then everything was better. And we didn't talk about it a lot, but it started to build a lot of frustration. And before, we didn't have a lot of problems. We didn't argue a lot. We didn't get into a ton of fights or anything. We still don't. Obviously, it's even less. But we weren't communicating the way that, especially that we used to in the beginning, and it wasn't as easy and free. And there was a lot of misunderstandings. And so that's why we started going to couples therapy. There wasn't a huge problem, but we wanted to offset anything that was going on and kind of get ahead of anything so that we didn't have problems. And that's where we went to that marriage seminar. Yeah. It was our therapist taught it. Yeah. It was a Gottman. And it was the 7 principles of marriage.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And we had already been deemed by our therapist masters before we went. I think we went to couples therapy 6 months, and he was like, listen, the problem is not, that you get stuck in the cycle. You guys are already learning how to break it. It's not the love, and it's not the ability to communicate. It's just learning about each other and finding out, like, Keith's like the duck, everything's calm on the surface beneath furiously paddling away. And I'm the squawking swan who's got its arms flapping around wings flapping around, and it's like making a big noise because I'm concerned. So it was a little bit of a different, like, looking at each other, how we approach the situations. We learned that through that couples therapy, and that really opened the door for you, because I started to understand how he was communicating with me. and he started to understand what I needed.
Mhm.
So I think that's when, and then that was years ago. And since then you have developed, I mean, that was several years ago we went to that. And since then he's really worked and honed to develop those skills.
And so have you.
Yes,
We
we
both did.
for sure. But, the two of us together working at that one, because the thing we kept coming back to finding with the bottom of our arguments was really, we didn't want to hurt each other.
Right.
And we were bothered and upset that we were not being there the way our partner needed. We just didn't know how.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going to a therapist, and like I said, it took us 6 months. And the one thing that we left with that we keep remembering is it's not about the argument so much as it is the repair.
Yes.
Going back to repair.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
So, and we had already, that was something we've always done. We always come back and repair, but we weren't talking it out the way that we do now.
Yeah.
Now that we're a little bit more, emotionally intelligent or articulate about it. But
Seasoned.
what's that?
Seasoned.
Seasoned. Yeah, we are a little seasoned. Yeah.
Certainly.
With the holidays coming up,
We won't say
I
less.
want to kind of share with our listeners a little bit more about like what this time of year was like for each of you in your family of origin homes. Like growing up, what was that like for you?
Why don't you talk about what holidays?
I mean, holidays for me, I remember always having a family holiday party. My families are it's weird. They're kind of intermixed in a way. In some ways, I have my father and his brother married 2 sisters. So there's 2 sisters who married 2 brothers. And, there's a lot of things that happen. So I remember they always liked to party. There was a lot of partying. A lot of Christmas parties. Christmas, they were always there. They were always loving. I always got just about what I wanted or needed for Christmas. No real issues or problems that I can think of during that time of year growing up for me. Just happy holidays.
Slightly different than Joanna's own childhood.
From what I understand, yeah.
Just a hair different. Not too many differences. I say very sarcastically.
It's funny because we did have a holiday party, but that was the only time that like my mom would talk about my accomplishments and things because it would then get the responses that she was looking to elicit. So it was almost like she was proud of me. So I really looked forward to going to, we always had a family gathering, same as him. My mom had a big family and we would go from aunt to aunt to aunt. But I can remember there always being a complaint like, oh, who's got to take the party this year? And I blah, blah, blah doesn't want to have it. And so blah, blah, blah is going to have it. And knowing that, especially after my grandparents died, because when my grandparents were alive, it was a little more cohesive. But that had to do with my grandmother. And I think more than anything. And then once she passed, I do remember having that, like, as cousins, we had that one night. I had one night a year where there was a few hours where we went to that family get-togethering with the Stesneys and my aunts and uncles. I had my cousins there. We played. They paid attention to me in some ways. Sometimes it depended because there was an Easter where I left and started walking home and they were like, oh, I guess she's walking home. And it was from like Warren to Ferndale. So it was a different dynamic in a lot of ways, but I did have those family gatherings that I looked forward to until I got to be older and they got more spaced out, especially after COVID. And then it was like certain families they all broke down into little smaller units and I just got started getting excluded from everything. And that was long before the podcast. And I remember at one point, because my mom and I weren't getting along well, and I reached out to my aunt and I said, listen, I really want to be in contact. I really want to have that relationship. What can I do so that I can get information on when there's family gatherings, get-togethers? And her answer to me was, we're not that kind of family. And I was like, oh, for me, because that was pretty clear. I mean, I knew about you would see it on Facebook and stuff, like other people that were gathering together as families in our family unit, these little insular families gathering together and doing little larger ones. Not everybody was there, but for some reason, every single one, that was like, I wasn't part of that group. And I just started to get more and more isolated from it. And then it wasn't too long after that there was a couple of things that happened. And then it was like, my mom basically told me, I don't want you as part of the family anymore. And so that was a couple of years ago. And thankfully I'd gone through enough therapy that when she said that to me, it wasn't the blow, but I was going through therapy while we were estranged, going through COVID, me seeing all of my family having these get-togethers, me making up stories about how they all get together and talk and are deliberately excluding me and not being able to find out. And then actually talking to one of my aunts and kind of letting her know how I felt, and her validating a lot of it, made me realize, like, okay, I'm not making this all up in my head. And then we talked a lot about it too. And that's when he was like, no, I see this, I see this, I see this, because you get gaslit so much when you're growing up that you just assume, especially when you're trauma, when there's a problem, you just always assume you are the problem. I am the problem. I'm the reason. Instead of like, well, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe because you've gone through so much therapy now, you are having different, healthier responses, and they don't know how to engage with that. That's possible. And it was, Dave saying that stuff to me and me being like, there's no way that can be true. There's, 50 of them and there's one of me.
And all these facts say otherwise.
Right.
No, but there was no facts.
We would go to court and I would lose every time.
Yeah.
They have no facts. I'd be like, well, we have to believe that. He's like, no.
No.
It's facts. What do we know
to be true
right
now?
Yes.
And Keith, I think me sharing those things that Dave taught me and Keith being willing to learn it helps, so that when it came up, he would say, like, what do we know to be true?
Just you going through therapy, I've learned so much. Just not only my own therapy, but just what you've gone through and what we've talked about. I've learned a ton. So
yeah, and he implements it, and that makes the difference, I think.
Absolutely.
Because when you're estranged and you're trying to rebuild, and then it's so hard to make friends as adults. And so, I think more so for women, but it's very hard to make friends as adults, and trying to rebuild like that family unit is very difficult if you're doing it if you don't already have that network in place and you're kind of trying to do it from scratch. Like, I had friends, they weren't people that we spent holidays together with or traveled together with or did any of those big things with. And now all of a sudden you're asking to be either let into their intimate lives or have them let you into come into yours. And that makes it very challenging. And so the holidays can start to get lonely. And for somebody like me who loves Christmas, I have on my shirt, I don't know if you can read it. It says, being related to me is really the only gift you need. So
I did see lots of people say that on Facebook about you today.
Yeah.
good Christmas pants.
Yeah,
And by lots of people, I mean me. I'm not related to you, but me. I've known you longer than any of the people related to you. So ergo me.
Yeah, basically. And I've got my Christmas pants on and my Christmas socks on, and I had a Christmas hat on earlier, but it is the season. My daughter was born December. I think I've talked about this, December 23rd. So Christmas has always been, for the last at least 32 years, it has been.
Yeah.
I already had that, like, that family gathering was like the one really happy thing that I looked forward to every year with my family that I got. That was it. And then when I had my daughter, I was able to combine some of that into it. And Keith joined right in. He was not big into, I mean, you guys celebrated Christmas, but you weren't like, we got to put up the tree and and get the decoration done. But
we got to decorate the outside of the house.
Yeah.
That was never anything with our. They put up a little bit of lights and decorations, but it wasn't a huge ordeal.
Yeah, it's a little different here. I could turn the camera, but I'm in the process of packing and moving, and I still have like a full mantle, my tree, a little setup over there with Santa's stuff up in my windows, a little hanging thing. Like, it's Christmas Central in my living room, at least. So, and I wear my Christmas outfits, and I love this season. Same thing with Thanksgiving, even though my family stopped getting together a long time ago, and yours hasn't gotten together for a long time either.
No, I think the last one was at my Aunt Virginia's. That was wild.
Yeah, it was a wild night.
Yeah,
but
party. That was years ago, though. Yeah,
they have fun. They're good. They're a good time. But it was a lot. That was before COVID for sure. And so we get together with our kids, but our kids, are finally adults. So by the time you get our daughter, our son-in-law, our grandkids, our son, and his mom, there's 8 or 9 of us. That's enough of a party that we enjoy and celebrate each other. Christmas was always a bigger thing where all of those satellite families would all connect.
Yeah.
And that being removed felt really lonely for a while. And I had to go through that whole, this isn't a me problem. But it took me a long time to get there, because they don't have to like me. Like, that's okay. But that doesn't mean that it's a me problem.
Very true. Because there is a huge difference.
Right. And it took a long time for me to learn that. And also, like, having somebody as likable, you have to know Keith to understand how likable Keith is. Keith and I have literally gone to events where he has said not a word, and we've left, and people have been like, oh my God, your husband is so nice. I just really like him. He's such a good guy. If you guys ever want to hang, and I'm like, I know he is. He's, when they say better half, like, he's my better half. But I finally feel like I have a right to say that about him too. I bring out the best in him too.
Right.
So it's just in different ways. We're very much the yin and yang. Like, he's very, everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, no, let's go. We got to get it done. He's like chill, cool. And he's more quiet. I'm more chatty.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about the other day how our experiences growing up were so different as far as what we feared and what our traumas were, and my family was always loving, and they weren't around a lot. They were always working or, whatever. So they weren't around a whole lot, but I always knew they loved me. They always took care of me, got me what I needed for the most part. Everything was cool. My issues were outside the house, gangs, violence, being aware of your surroundings. Like, it was a dangerous area I lived in. So all my trauma was outside, and fear of outside, and being super hyper aware of everything around you and everything that's going on. And hers, seemed to be all in the house, and the outside was kind of, her safe space almost. So it's kind of.
And we're like that now. Like, he's very hypervigilant about what's going on around the house, but he doesn't notice there'll be cracks in the wall that'll show up. And I'm like, did you see that crack? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I noticed everything in the house, every little ding, crack. And that was the analogy that, we figured out, it's very parallel to that analogy kind of how we grew up, like, safer in the home than it was outside, safer outside of the home than it was inside.
Right.
So it's interesting how we carry that today and we support each other through that today, because I will talk him through things that are about the, the neighborhood or whatever. And he talks me through all kinds of things that have to do with what's going on in the house. And it gets both of us to kind of relax and get the other person's perspective, or amp up maybe our antenna and be like, oh, is that something I need to pay attention to?
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up being, I think, a benefit to both of us now that we don't allow it to control our actions.
Right. Agreed.
Which is huge. I mean, obviously, I'm a big promoter of therapy in general, hence my field. But even more so of like couples work and both parties willing to be like, okay, well, I don't know if there's something I can do differently, but you know what? I'm willing to try, and being able to go and figuring out different ways to do things in order to make your lives easier. Like the goal isn't obviously to make life any harder, whether it's inside the home or outside of the home. Like that's not the goal. The goal is for you guys to be able to learn how to communicate differently. That's more effectively, no, that's more efficient. And that's allowing for both of your voices and concerns and fears and worries and joys and like all of it to be able to be heard and recognized, and then being able to say, oh, yeah, they did say this was something that bothered them. And I recognized, yeah, I just did that. And that was kind of a dick move. I'm gonna have to go and apologize for like, okay, that's not what I meant, or it wasn't my intention, but that's how it came out, like whatever it is, and being able to take ownership and responsibility in a way that people in your past, Joanna, growing up inside the home, we're not going to do that. But then also people, Keith, in your past, outside of the home, we're not going to do that. So it's like, okay, we found the niche that works for both of us to be able to communicate to the best of our ability. Not saying that like, yay, everything's great and wonderful, and you guys are sunshine and roses right now for all the rest of the time, because that's not realistic. Right. But it gives you a better platform to start things and have conversations about things. And then when you kind of notice, like, all right, Thanksgiving's coming up, I kind of know it's a big deal, or Easter, or Christmas, but like, I kind of know. So if he or she starts kind of doing this or doing this, like I'm understanding where that's coming from because we've communicated enough about it. So are the things I've used in the past still effective? And if they're not, I just want to check it. Like, I know in the past I've tried this and this doesn't seem to be working. Is there something else I can do differently to help support you during this time frame?
Yeah, that's super huge. Like, you basically did that this past weekend.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this past weekend? You want me to do that?
No, this past weekend we had our grandkids over, and
It was great.
there's a lot that we mostly you packed into their visit here. A lot of
I was in
crafts and baking, and going to the Dickens Festival. It was a fun, event-filled couple of days, and you enjoy that stuff.
I do.
But it definitely took its toll on you, physically and mentally. You struggled a little bit.
I did, a little. Yeah, a little overwhelmed at one point.
So, I just, in those situations, I just try to be as understanding, give as much grace as I can, and ask what I can do. What do you need from me? What can I do for you? At this moment right now, is there anything? And help you through, and give you those breaks and times to reset, and take care of everything while you go take a minute and reset and do your thing and come back.
Get my body all calm and then come
Mhm.
back. Because I've noticed that because I don't have that family connection, I started to do some unhealthy, like, well, I have to create the perfect, experience for my grandkids. And when that started to fall apart, then I started to have like, this, like I'm doing it wrong. I can't, and I had to pull away and like reset my brain so that I could put into perspective what I was trying to achieve, which was a good time with the grandkids doing holiday stuff, no matter how it turned out. Even if, water spilled and people's ornaments got ruined and whatever, like at the end of the day, and they made, one of my grandkids alone made like 20, 22 or 25 cut out, the dough ornaments. We cut them out of, he colored those I let him use my fancy markers. So we're talking like 20 with one, 25 with another. And then between Tyler, myself, and Keith, there's probably another 15. It was probably a good 70 ornaments or so that I helped them string and put together. And that's in addition to baking 5 different types of cookies, not 5 dozen, 5 different types, each 3 dozen. Yeah, because I did the first 4 and then they decided they did want sugar cookies. And I didn't just say no.
Well, and then the other one wanted an apple, something type of an apple treat.
Yeah.
You made like an apple streusel.
Apple cobbler too.
Cobbler thing.
I did say no to the pumpkin bread.
You did finally say no to the pumpkin bread, yes.
But
Really?
But it took me probably halfway through the weekend to realize that's what I was doing. Now I wasn't stressed out with the grandkids, and so they didn't know that I was stressed out. He knew.
Right.
He could read what was going on. And so he gave me those breaks. And the other thing that he did was I have slept. Like I went to bed, I think at like 9 last night. I slept and I normally only sleep like 6 hours. And I slept until I think 5 this morning. And then I took another nap for 3 hours today. And he's just been like, I'm so happy you took a nap. He hasn't been like, why?
Early you did it.
Yes. There hasn't been like, why hasn't any packing gotten done? Or what about this? Or what about, it's just been very, I'm so happy you did what you needed to take care of yourself, sweetie. So it really gives you that freedom and permission to do what you need to do. Without.
I'm sure he wanted, another 2 different types of cookies made, but he was cutting you some slack this year.
Yeah.
Considering you made like 2,700 different treats over the weekend and you've decorated at least 40 trees in the neighborhood. Like,
Yep. You should go see the gazebo across the way in the common area.
It is decorated with lights. I did get neighborhood help though.
You did.
And when did the weekend start with the kids?
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
And when did it end?
Sunday morning.
Sunday, yeah, mid-morning, only because we had to go look at houses.
We had a couple houses we had to go look at.
Otherwise, it would have probably gone until Sunday afternoon.
So our son Tyler watched them for a couple hours till their mom came and got them.
Yeah.
That was a lot to pack into 2 days with 3 small children.
Yeah. And at we have a smaller car. We have 3 grandchildren, so we had to take 2 trips downtown to the Dickens Festival. I had to drop her and the youngest one off, come back and get the older 2, take them down, and then we got done. And I had to take the older 2 back home and then switch the car seats and go back and get her and the younger one. It was great. They had a great time. It was fun. That's what really matters. But it was a little crazy, but worth it.
It was worth it. The pictures we got of them going down the snow slide alone and with Santa were priceless. But
cool.
Yeah, this was definitely not like Keith was not the ringleader in this idea.
No, usually not.
No, it doesn't sound like Keith was wrangling any chickens on his own. He was just following along. What am I doing next? Got it.
Yeah. clean that up. Okay, yep, got that. Need me to hand dinner? Okay.
Got
yep.
it. Or cookies? You need parchment paper? Got it. Got it.
Now, normally I do all the cooking when the grandkids are
Yeah,
here, but
right.
because I was baking,
Yeah,
you took your dinner for us.
They
So,
could have just, everybody could have just eaten cookies.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did. I'm so glad
Yeah.
my daughter doesn't watch or listen to my podcast. They kind of did. So they were like,
That's
anytime
what
they were like,
grandma's house is for. That's
That's
why
fine.
it's your grandparents' house. You get all the treats.
and that's the thing. I was like, there's 700 dozen. Have a cookie. And then I still had fudge for Oliver from last year. He has he has a milk allergy, so I have to make it, and a nut allergy, so I have to make it with sun butter and coconut milk and stuff. So it's frozen, and every once in a while he'll want a piece of it. Well, then I had fudge that I had made like last week for the cookie tins as well. So I had that to give to the other grandchildren, and then Oliver had his fudge, so they had some of that too. But they brush their teeth twice a day.
Perfect. Perfect.
They do. They do.
So whatever. You know what? If I get in trouble, I guess so be it. I really tried to let them have the fun that they wanted to have, because because we're moving, they're not going to be able to come over as much this year. But even still, I have some depression about the holidays. I think there's a little bit of seasonal effect of depression when it gets dark and dreary. That's part of it, dark early, and it's gray all day and stuff like that. And that's the holidays help distract me from that. And I think that's part of what keeps me going through this time. And I look to engage in those events, because we went to Dickens Festival already once, and it did not go well.
No,
I did not handle the crowds,
as crap.
and it was so cold. And people kept shouting my name from across long distances because they recognized my hair, and so it kept startling me, because I'm like, who is here? Who not? I mean, I know it's my town, but we didn't go with anybody. So my grandsons did say, they go, do you know everybody in town? Because everywhere we went, it seemed like everybody knew. And I was like, it's the hair. It's the purple hair. People remember you.
Mhm.
True.
But yeah, just him being.
Well, we both have very recognizable hair.
That's
I guess,
true.
sometimes.
That's true.
You do. You really do, Keith.
The locks,
I do.
curly
The
locks.
long, flowing situation.
He's got the correct kind of curls that women pay good money for. I used to pay good money to get this kind of hair in high school. Remember?
Yeah.
The perms. He's got it now.
I don't even need any product.
So
Just curls
I don't want to hear
naturally.
it, Keith. I don't want to hear it. This isn't about you, okay?
Curls.
she don't want to talk to me.
I was just
See
this with any
this
product. And I was like,
situation
can't
I'm rolling with.
how perfect these curls are. I couldn't believe it.
So he's as you can see, he's a lighthearted guy. He makes me laugh a lot too, and that is huge.
Important.
Yeah. He's able to read. I mean, we've been together.
Couple weeks.
At least what, 2-3 weeks at this point, yeah.
We're doing great.
I don't.
Yes.
2003, so 21 years, going on 22 years that we've been together, and he and I got serious fairly soon. He moved in within 6 months, so it was definitely kind of fast, but it's always been like we didn't even have a fight for the first 2 years. We were just so in love with each other that everything was like, it's fine. You're perfect. Everything's great. Now that's definitely matured and changed, and we're able to talk about the things that bother each other a lot more easily now.
Mhm.
But just him being able to make me laugh and read what I need.
Yeah.
So he will ask me what I need, but he also a lot of times just knows, like he'll ask me, do you need a tea, honey? Because I just love chai tea. It tastes like Christmas. I love chai tea, so he will make me a chai tea, and he always makes the best tea. I don't know what it is, but he does.
He
So
puts love in it.
that's what I said.
I do.
I
That's what I
gagged
said.
a little bit when I said that, but really he put love in it.
So
Do you think, like, in what ways has, like, Joanna been able to step up and support you when, like, you've been struggling through things, whether it's the holidays or just in general throughout your guys' relationship together?
She always has good insight. Gives me a different perspective sometimes. Always supportive. Always supportive. Which is very important. Just being there for me, in whatever way I need. She always has been. That's really important.
Was it, circling back to like the inside outside of the house stuff, like in what ways did maybe each of you have to kind of learn how to adapt to the other, to kind of, for you, Joanna, to get him outside of the house, to not notice danger, but like for him to be able to see the outside of the house is okay, we can have fun and safety and whatever here, but then also for Keith, for you to be able to do that same thing for her inside of the house?
I know that you think about your answer, because I know what Christmas lights was one of the first ones. Taking the kids to go see Christmas lights, taking the kid, starting those little traditions with the kids that he hadn't necessarily done, like going to Bronner's and picking out a Christmas ornament, or going to Canterbury Village and picking out a Christmas ornament every year and making it like a family event thing, something that his family was just too busy to do. And so we made sure to take that time and come together and do those things. And then doing things like making sure that he didn't have to worry about all of the distractions of, do I have to buy gifts for everybody else? He could focus on us. I would take care of the shopping outside of the house, which is pretty typical for a lot of households, I think, where the women do most of the shopping for the family. But I would take the time to like learn what his mom wanted, and then let him know too, hey, this is what your mom said she wanted, so that there's been years where I've been like, so what do you think now? Because through the years we've kind of learned, and now he gives me great suggestions for her. Whereas before he used to be like, I don't know. And this year he came up with a suggestion that I hadn't thought of. I was like, oh, it's a great idea. So I think doing those things and kind of giving him the perspective of like, honey, these things are fun. And this is why they're fun. And making sure that, because budgeting was never something that you came into the household being the best at. And like, I budget to make sure that there's a Christmas budget.
I've never purchased a car without your permission.
So
Anymore. Or again.
And he also, he used to wait until the 24th or the 23rd to go Christmas shopping for me. And he would get frustrated because he couldn't find anything that he wanted for me. And then I would feel guilty because I was like, did I ask for things that were too complicated? So now through the years, we have just come to this thing where I'm like, hey, I want that sweater. Let's buy that. And I have a terrible memory. So I'm like, if you hide it, I'll forget it. And he knows I will.
Yeah.
I don't go search for things. I'm very good about that. I actually, when I was a kid, this was one of the nightmares that I grew up. I found one of my gifts as like 4 or 5 years old. It was a Barbie dream house. I wanted it so badly. And because I found my gift, my mother took that gift with me back to the store and blamed me for ruining my own Christmas. And so I never search for gifts. If you could tell me where it is, I will not look. That was something that he became very cognizant of, like, okay, it makes her happy to make sure that everybody gets the gifts. This takes stress off. I now know what she wants. I don't have to try and remember it.
Right.
And and she really won't go search for it. I can just tell her where it is and she doesn't go near it. And so that made things a lot easier on both our parts. And I don't get stressed out. I mean, I do tell him, like, we have X amount left in the budget. Take that, go pick out something you think I'd want. And he usually nails it. He does something that I would have never thought of. And it's something that I love. But it took a while for him to not, because he doesn't have the pressure of getting all the gifts. He gets to just focus on one or two things. And he doesn't have to find the sweater cut that I want, that has the pockets, that is soft enough or whatever. I have some sensory issues with, especially with clothes, or, he doesn't have to find, like, if it's the right length of pant for me because I have very short legs or anything like that. If there's things that are important, I take care of those. And then I let him get the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of our Christmas budgeting, like, okay, we know we're going to need, you're going to need new stuff for the grill this year. So let's wait until Black Friday and we'll get that. And that'll be one of your Christmas gifts. And we both agree on that, so that helps us fit in the budget too. But I enjoy being able to do this and to make sure that we have enough left over, like, to be able to buy the gifts for our loved ones that we really care about. I don't buy a ton of gifts outside of my kids and my grandkids, but the ones that I do, they're really important and special to me. And I take time to try and make them like just what that person would want. That brings me a huge amount of joy. He understands that.
Just imagine the beautiful Hogwarts coffee cup in my hand. I didn't know I was going to have a plug for this, ladies and gentlemen. So just imagine that I'm holding, like, it's probably like a 24-ounce coffee cup, okay? Which is perfect for hot cocoa because I really like marshmallow cream with like a dash of hot cocoa in it.
Nice.
It's beautiful. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, she got a couple of Hogwarts things and I had fun picking them out, and there's a couple other people that I have, like, just that I have gifts for that are just the right gift I tried to search for. He just lets me do that. He doesn't get stressed out about it. He doesn't, like, that's not our, are we sure that's in the budget? He knows I've made a budget for it and he just lets me do my thing. And that really helps me through the holidays. Not everybody needs that. Some people need to be kept away from holiday stuff. He would do that for me too. Like, I could see him putting up sheets on the windows if I didn't want to see holiday lights, just to block them out. I could see him doing that, like putting out blackout curtains or something, just so I didn't see the holiday lights if that was something that stressed me out. He just goes the extra mile to do those little things, and it helps.
Yeah. Sure.
And you took him out of his comfort zone, so to speak, and like re-entered him back into, sounds terrible, but I'm going to say it, re-entered him back into society with like little events with the kids, like, okay, we're going to go and do this. We're going to go and do this. So it kind of like slowly desensitized you over time, Keith, where you're like, yeah, it's great. Let's go to the Dickens Festival. Every day this week sounds great. Like, it allowed you to get, maybe not every day, but it allowed you to get to that place to where, like, okay, the outside is not always as scary as I felt it was growing up.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard, but he just chimed in, like, he actually has gone and spoken at council meetings before now because of things that he's felt passionate about, which is something he would never have done, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think it would have even crossed his mind to do it, and it wasn't like me going, you should go speak at it was him going, you know what? This really pisses me off. I'm going to go speak at the council meeting about this.
Yeah.
So setting the example for your partner, you have no idea how much that can help shape them without you telling them what they need to do, like just doing it yourself.
Yeah.
I don't tell him to get involved in like making the Christmas tins, and he comes up and he's like, hey, do you want help with doing any of that? You know, and delivering it and stuff. We used to do for years. As a matter of fact, this shows you how much I've brought him out of the show. He did basically like our own breaking and entering Christmas Santa, where he dressed as Santa, and we went and delivered gifts a couple of years in a row to people that were struggling, families. And then he played Santa at the fire department a few years in a row, and he was like, so like, what, you know, like, I got to talk to people, and what do I do? And, you know, and they had the whole Santa experience with the screaming kid and everything, like backbending. And he was just like, ho, 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 you know, but he went back and did it again. I made him the Santa costume. So he had that to be able to use with our grandkids too. He was their Santa for the first, 10 or 11 years of their life. Yeah.
Well, the oldest one.
The oldest one, yeah, obviously. But the other two for the first several, you know, it was a really special thing that we did for a long time. So that's not anything that he would have done without me. I mean, at first it was begging him, and then it was me like encouraging, like, what do you mean you can't, honey, you're so funny, and reminding him of all of his great qualities and why that stuff translates to other people, and also respecting when he said no.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I desperately wanted him to do it, like I desperately wanted him to just walk around the sub one year during COVID and just dress in a Santa outfit and just ring a bell and say ho, ho, ho and stuff like that. And he was just like, I'm not, it wasn't in his comfort zone. And so I let it go. And I was like, all I said was, maybe I wish I could dress as Santa.
Fair.
So, and that was kind of the end of it. I mean, I guess I could have, but you know, we kind of let it go. And he's done the same thing with me with like, when I want to send out Christmas cards or whatever it is, he's just there to be supportive instead of questioning whether it's in the budget or whether I'm overextending myself. Now, if I get overwhelmed, he might say like, I mean, you overextended yourself a little bit.
You overdid it. Let's be real.
Yeah. But he doesn't ever say to me like, you know, are you sure that's not too much? Are you sure you're not planning taking
why did you do all that?
Right. No. Or why would you do that to yourself? Or he understands why I do the things that I do. And I learn my own lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
I have finally gone through enough therapy. I think that I can say like, yeah, I definitely took on too much, and then sit down and go, okay, why?
Right.
So that I don't do it again. You know, hopefully. I mean, let's face it, I'm always going to overdo it at Christmas, but you know,
Fair.
Next time
understanding the why then allows you to decide like, oh, well, then it was worth it. Like now that I really understand why, yes, it was worth it, or that absolutely wasn't. And here's what I'm going to do differently next time so that I don't do that. And also cause him any added stress of like, oh, here she goes again. I know this is not going to be good, but you know what? I got the tri-tee on standby and the pocketless, buttonless, fuzzy crew neck sweater ready to go, just in case he needs it.
Yep. That's basically kind of how it, and of everything that I took on this weekend, like there's really nothing that I do regret. The only thing I probably would have changed is when I asked my grandsons what kind of cookies they wanted, I wouldn't have listened to them when they said, we want the 4 kinds for the tins and done the tin. I would have just said, no, you guys really want the sugar cookies to cut out. I know that's what you want. You just don't realize it's what you want because it's one cookie and it sounds boring. But that ended up being their favorite cookie, their favorite thing to do. And we cut out ornaments. And that was something that I don't know if I'd have known all encompassing how much work it was going to be. I don't know in the beginning if I would have taken it on. And now that I did it, I'm so glad I did.
Right.
And I've got some great ornaments for my tree. And
they had so much fun.
Oh, they had so much fun. And we built a core memory. It was obvious.
The youngest, he made, I think, two, one for his mom, one for his dad. I think he put one on our tree.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, who are you giving these ones to? He's like, no, these are all mine. Like he made like 13 for himself and like gave a couple of his gifts.
I love that. I love that. He's like, no, these are mine.
Yeah, that's it. And that's how it is.
People and then me.
Right. He's like, well, he originally made one for mom and dad and said the rest are for him. And I was like, oh, so none for mom. Who's doing all of this? Got it. Cool. And he's like, oh, I got this one for, and he made me a really cool, it's a purple snowman with a blue hat. And he made me a really cool snowman to put on the tree. And he wanted to make sure when I hung it, I was putting his brothers up and they're like, one's up kind of higher off to the front and then one's off to the side here. And he's like, no, mine's got to go right there, like right in the middle, right dead center, you know? And he tried to get me to move other ornaments so that it could be like right there. And I was like, so I did. I ended up moving like 3 ornaments so that it could be where he wanted it. Because the fact that he made it for me alone, I was like, listen,
Yeah.
I am special.
That's right. It may have been like a little like guilt-induced special, but damn it, you got that purple snowman.
It might have been because and here's the thing, I asked him about his other, I go, well, what about your other grandma and your grandpa? And he's like, no. And what, you know, the one lives with him. She hangs out with him all the time. He loves her. He thinks she's amazing. His grandpa who lives in Arizona, he just absolutely adores. His other grandpa dresses as Santa for them. He doesn't know it, but oh no, he does know it. They think that he's the real Santa. So, you know, my ex. So and he was like, no, they don't need anything. These are for me. And you get one of mom and dad. That's it. I was like, what about pie? He's like, no. I'm like, your brothers? He's like,
No.
I've already told you no.
right.
You're trying to get me to give away my ornaments. These are my ornaments. You gotta love the boundaries on that kid.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I said, I wish I had his boundaries. He could care. He just 0 fucks. Oliver has 0 fucks. He just does not care. I actually, at one point I asked him, he wouldn't eat his vegetables. And I was like, don't you want to be big and tall? He's like, no, I'll stay short. I don't want to, I'm not eating the vegetables.
I remember he had a toy that he was playing with and he wouldn't share it. And you had said, okay, you got one option. You can share the toy or I can take it away and nobody gets it. And he was like, option 2, nobody gets it. He wasn't sharing it. He'd rather nobody have it.
He's like, no, I'm taking option 2. No, I'm not sharing this toy because eventually your memory will fade. I will get the toy back and nobody will be any the wiser.
Yep, basically.
Well,
That is hysterical.
yeah, they're pretty funny kids. So, you know, but Oliver has different boundaries than I've ever met on anybody. He has stronger boundaries than adults that have been like just well loved. He is very obvious that he is secure at home. Like he knows that he can just say no and it's going to be fine. Nobody's going to hurt him.
Right.
He can say what his feelings are about it. And if you try and like reason with him, he's got reasons like, no, this is why I'm right. It's very hard to out reason him. So, you know, he's just, they're all such different characters as, you know, as we know with grandkids, but it was a really lovely weekend once we got through it, especially. I was just tired, man. I think part of it was too, I was dealing with all the physical health issues that I have and how much that has drained me and taken my stamina and reduced my ability to be able to do things versus 5-10 years ago when that weekend wouldn't have been as draining by far as it was for me this time. So it's learning my boundaries as they keep changing too. But in him being just so gracious about me learning my new boundaries and then accepting them. He's always so accepting when I'm like, listen, I can't open jars anymore. You have to open the jars now. All of them.
He's like, finally, these guns get to come into play. Yes. You need a jar open, babe? I got you.
right? And then he's just like, and I'm over there like,
You know, it really is rude. It really is rude.
yeah, I know. It's, what I'm talking about.
I do. I loosened it. My dad will be like, yeah, right. Can you give me that one kernel that I loosened it?
I always say that too. I'm like, I loosened it.
You did.
Yeah.
You do.
That's what he
I
said.
was opening it the wrong way. That's why I couldn't get it.
And he's always like, you did. You
Yep.
did loosen it.
Yep.
You helped.
You're
You almost
like,
have to.
placate me, sir.
Yeah, I know that this time of year, she really enjoys Christmas and the idea of it and decorating. I think inside the house, I try to provide a safe space and be supportive and do what I can to help her through the good times and the bad and help her decorate and bring all the stuff up and
Yeah. No,
just support her and be there for her through these times and when they do get bad and just having that grace and doing what I can to help her through those moments.
And I want to make sure that our listeners know, like, as wonderful as you are, like, it's not that he doesn't go or sigh or whatever, when he's got to bring up a box or something. And it's up to me to not go, oh, he's mad, he's upset with me or whatever.
Right.
He's allowed to sigh or to be like, oh, there's another crate. It doesn't mean that he begrudges bringing it up for me. Like, both things can be true. He can be tired, his back can hurt, and he can be perfectly happy to be bringing that stuff upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it took me a while to learn that like he didn't have to act happy all the time or match my vibe in order for him to be supporting me.
True, very true.
So I think that's but it took a long time to learn that.
When you're used to everything being a you problem for so long, it's really hard for it to not be a you problem. And even his side once upon a time would be like, I'm asking too much of him. I shouldn't ask him to do that. Or he doesn't really want to do that, which means he doesn't love me, which means we're going to break up. And this whole thing is going to be like to just catastrophize right from the jump.
Yeah.
Being able to be like, it's fine. He can sign. If he doesn't want to bring it up, he'll tell me. Until then, I'm just going to go on about my merry way. Like, it's not up to me to dictate what's going on inside of his head.
Yes. And that was so hard for me because, again, it took a lot of shadow work and learning to accept some hard truths. And one of the hard truths that comes with trauma is when you live in chaos and then chaos is not around, you sometimes create it because that's what you know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's comfortable. It's familiar and comfortable, and you know how to exist in it. You know how to combat those feelings, and the peace is like, well, the bomb's going to drop, and I don't know when that's coming, but if I start something, and this isn't a linear thought process that happens where we're consciously thinking it. You have to learn, like, oh, that's what I was doing. I was creating Armageddon because I felt lonely and abandoned, or I feel like I'm not good enough and people don't want me, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And for me, learning how to accept that these smaller gatherings are just as valuable and beautiful as the big family gatherings that we used to have with all of the love and the attention. Like, we can still have all of that and have it, make it so it sustains through the year. It's not just one day a year.
Absolutely. And then these gatherings are, they're more authentic. They're real. They're genuine love, genuine care, genuine joy, instead of like, man, I really hope I did enough this year that my mom's going to tell really great things about me to people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's shitty when you kind of think about it, like, that's really like, that's all I was, or I wasn't really truly appreciated every day of my life the way that I am now. Like, so finding that solace and that happiness and that joy in what you guys have built now versus what it was then, like, you have more wealth than you'll ever know, simply because of that, which is huge.
Well, and I just realized as you were saying this, like, I think for a really long time, I thought I was celebrating the holidays when in reality, I was basically auditioning for my family to be like, am I good enough? Can I be accepted? Did I do enough? Did I make enough gifts for everybody? Did I make enough things? And now, like, if I didn't get cookie tins done, it would be fine. It really would. I do it out of joy, but if I don't get it done, then it doesn't get done. I'm not stressed about it. There are a few people that I want to make sure that I have gifts for because that brings me joy, but it doesn't mean that that's the only way that I'll enjoy the holidays. And it used to be the reverse. Like, I had to make sure that I checked off all the boxes or the holidays wouldn't be right. And I don't think I was celebrating before. Like I said, I was just performing. And now I'm actually celebrating the holidays. And the letdown when Christmas is over is so much less. You know, I used to leave the tree up until February, March sometimes because I just couldn't let that feeling go. And now I like Christmas is over, New Year comes, and I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I'd like the space back. Because I'm still going to see the grandkids, and we're still going to have family get-togethers, and we're still going to spend time. And, you know, if I want to invite my kids over for dinner, they're going to come over to dinner, or they might invite us over for dinner or whatever. Like, our son goes out to dinner with us on a fairly regular basis. And he does it because he's like, you know, I haven't spent time with you guys in a while. I want to spend some time with you.
Yeah.
It's so different from how I grew up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
His family loved and chose to spend time together. My family did it because that's what you did. You know, like being Catholic, you celebrated certain days and you did it on certain days. And, you know, the more that everybody had, the more successful you showed your success by how much you had. And the more you could give, then the more that you had, then the more successful you were, then the more you would be wanted and accepted. That was the message I received. I'm not saying that that's the message that everybody was trying to send. That's the message I received.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been very different having a spouse who's just like, and he'll think of things too. You'll think of things to get like, let's go up to Bronner's, or let's go do something. You know, let's go drive here and look at Christmas lights now. Whereas it used to be me like, can we go look at Christmas lights? And now he's like, hey, you want to go drive around and see some Christmas lights? And so it's kind of those things too that he does that I don't have to ask for it anymore. Learning that love language.
Letting you indulge in the things that bring you joy. Somebody's hungry.
My cat might be hungry. I'm not sure.
Hello.
I can't tell.
She's like, excuse me, the warranty on your car is about to expire. You need to renew it.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least she's not coming at you with political ads anymore.
True.
So there's a plus. There's a plus. Now she's just back to reminding you of your car's extended warranty.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. She's very concerned that we're both sitting here and nobody's feeding her.
She has needs.
She's my therapy cat.
I appreciate you both being able to kind of talk a little bit more openly this way and sharing your thoughts and your feelings and your supportiveness and your struggles and all those things. Because everybody goes through it, but not a lot of people actually talk about it so that other people can learn or listen or understand or just realize, oh my God, there are healthy relationships out there. And it didn't come from two complete separate individuals who were raised completely healthy to get there, you know? So I think that's huge. And I think that's huge for our listeners, especially for this time of year. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the one thing I wanted to also mention too, if religion is a big part of your holidays, which I'm Christian, we both believe in the higher powers and the spiritual beings and all of those things. But when we first got together, I was Catholic. And we got married in a Catholic church. Like I wanted to go, we would go to the Catholic mass. Keith did not care whether we were there or not. He loved the music and stuff, and we would go there, but he never, ever made me feel bad, judged me, said anything about it. It was, Catholicism, if you don't know a lot about it, it's a lot of rote and rule, like following the steps, making sure that you do the right things, say your prayer, do your confessions, good deeds, good works. Keith actually converted to Catholicism, not converted, it wasn't anything. He just got baptized into Catholicism to give me that kind of support that I needed at that time. And allowed that to, we carried that for a long time until the church, more came out about the church, and then I had to leave. That obviously that tied in with my experiences as a child. It just wasn't a religion that I could stay comfortable and supported. So we don't have an organized religion that we support anymore, but we still, we are still supportive of people being able to express their feeling, their religion, and whatever way that is. And he was so there for me. He didn't have to buy into all the ritual in order to be supportive and be there for me and show up. And it's just so easy to do that for your partner.
Yeah.
Even midnight mass, even though it was late, it was beautiful, but it was a couple hours. It was once a year. And he ended up loving it. He ended up thinking that it was like one of just a beautiful experience. I'm speaking for you, but that was what he told me.
No, I was, and the singer that we had there was beautiful.
Yeah, the choir.
Voice.
The choir.
Yeah.
So, just things like that to remember too. Like if religion is something that is your thing or your partner's thing, but maybe not vice versa, maybe there's ways that you can find to engage in their rituals in that and keep that part of the holiday spirit too. Because that's important to them. And it doesn't mean that it has to become important to you. Your partner's important to you.
Yes.
And that's what that's where you're focusing your attention. So it doesn't mean that you're all automatically converting to Catholicism or whatever religion, just because you start engaging in those holiday rituals with them that may be centered more around religion. So, and if they're not, that's okay. Like, just be supportive.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing about this time of year and the season. For some people, it's the birth of Jesus. Other people it's Santa Claus and gift giving. And for other people, it's just, there's a different kind of magic in the air that's like, okay, whether you need this magic now because your year has been total shit and it's like, oh, it's almost over. I just have to get through this. And it'll be a different year completely. There's different things that each person needs to get out of this time of year. Even if some of those things you don't even recognize yet because you are so depressed or you are so stuck in your trauma or you're still stuck in that family environment that's unsafe for you to get away from. Like there's always light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. There's always sun shining somewhere, and finding where that is for you may take you far away from all the darkness that you grew up with. Or it may allow you to bring a different type of light into your life that allows you to pick and choose what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because not everybody's felt the same. Not everybody goes through the same experiences. And that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So is there anything else that you want to share, honey?
Yeah, just one thing just that I struggled with a lot, not just during the holidays, but in a lot of situations where maybe you were having a bad day or a bad moment, and I always want to fix it. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it. I got to fix it. What do I got to do to make it all better? What do you need? I got to do to make it all better. And it's not always about fixing it. And it's a lot of times it's just validation and being there and,
Yeah.
and letting them know that, yeah, that is hard. That's horrible. That sucks,
Absolutely.
whatever it is, So that's something that I think probably a lot of guys struggle with is wanting to fix it. That's what we do. We fix stuff, right? So that's something that I really struggled with and had to learn. You don't have to fix it all the time,
No.
A lot of times just validating is fixing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Yeah. Or just a hand, just
Yeah,
coming
a
over,
gentle touch.
and just
Yeah.
rubbing my shoulder or something. I'm crying and he doesn't know what to say. Just touching me and letting me know he's there, putting an arm around me, asking me if I want a hug.
Hmm.
Not just
Come here,
grabbing, yeah, but a gentle hand. And then if I pull away, he never gets he doesn't get butthurt about it.
No.
He understands it's not about him. There's
I know
something
what you've
going on.
been through.
Mhm.
I know what you've been through.
Yeah, there's something going on with my body, and then we come back and we talk about it. And I do let him in so that he understands. I don't share every detail, but I don't just go, well, I was having a hard time, or my childhood or whatever.
Right.
I do let him into what was happening because it really helps him understand, especially the next time, that he might recognize oh, this could be a really bad situation, and he can prepare ahead of time. It just allows your partner to better prepare to how to be more supportive for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I think that's about all I've got. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, that was it. I think that kind of summed up a lot of different things. And kind of gives people an idea like this. Obviously, today is a lot more personal in some ways. And so that's what we're looking for within our second season is things to be a little bit more personal in a different way.
Right.
So I think that this will definitely resonate with more people, for sure. And they'll be more excited for next season, which I'm excited for as well.
I know, me too. Me too. So, and again, listeners, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, you can reach us through our Facebook page. The email is on there for sweetat@gmail. You can reach us that way. We will definitely be changing some things up in the second season. So we would love to hear topic ideas, anything that you would like to just be fleshed out in the show, something that you might want us to recover, anything like that. We're open to it and we'd love to hear it. So please feel free to put the comments underneath the show notes and send us those messages. Let us know what you're looking for, because we're here for you. We're not just here to talk about the journey, but we're here to also help support you through yours.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we appreciate all of you. Hope that you guys all have a very wonderful holiday season, whatever that looks like for you. Taking care of yourselves individually as best you can to make it through whatever it is you need to get through.
Yep. And if you're lucky enough to have a partner like I do, this is a really good time to reflect on the things through the year that have brought you closer together and how you've been able to support each other.
For sure.
And, or maybe some things that you'd like to work on in the next year, but being able to talk it through is going to be your best bet. So we do talk about that.
We do talk about that.
All right. Well, thank you, my dear. It's been a pleasure as always.
As always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, ladies. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was our pleasure, Keith. Our absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
I'm lovely.
You are lovely. You are very lovely.
You really did. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Take care. And like Natalie said, happy holidays to you, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely.
Yes.